Welcome. This is a short information class called Parliamentary Actions. This class is intended to support Community of Christ congregations in the Coastal Bend Mission Center. My name is Jim Burdick. I'm on the Mission Center President team, and what I present are my thoughts and opinions and not officially authorized by Community of Christ. Thank you for being with us. In our class today, we will try to explore just a few of the several parliamentary actions you might encounter in a business meeting. There are many more actions that could be encountered, but I'll bet these will cover 90% of what we mostly see. I actually have seen all of these at some point in my life, and I have placed them in sequence by most common to least common. For the duration of the class, we will try to relate to a consistent situation where a congregation will consider a proposal to paint the parking lot orange. From this simple premise, we can see how some of the parliamentary actions relate and behave with each other. There is a basic construct for how a motion happens. First, obviously, the mover must get the floor. This usually happens by raising one's hand and being recognized. But oftentimes the mover and the chair can also be aware of the desire for to consider a motion, and the chair may make a statement such as, "The chair now recognizes Cindy Jones for a motion." In any event, a potential mover gets the floor. The next step is that the mover actually reads the motion. This might be as simple as, "Thank you, I would like to move that the congregation paint the parking lot orange." This is a potential motion. At the time of reading it, it is also possible that the mover might add, "And if it receives a second, I ask for the floor to speak to it." In either case, nothing happens with the statement until there is a second. When the statement receives a second, the statement becomes a motion. By the way, the secretary does not need to name the seconder, just note that there was a second in the minutes. Also, by the way, it is wise to remember who the seconder is, as there are parliamentary actions that require concurrence of both the mover and the seconder. After being moved and seconded, we enter debate. We will try to use debate and discussion somewhat interchangeably, but I actually prefer the word discussion because of the charged feelings that can come from the word debate. Remember that when the mover read the initial proposal, she asked to speak to the motion. If that was the case, this begins the discussion that will proceed according to the rule of alternates. If Cindy had not asked for that, the chair, that is you, will ask, "Is there any discussion?" and that will begin the process. When discussion stops, or you hit a time limit such as 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatever has been agreed upon, the chair can ask if the meeting is ready to vote, can take a vote, and then you will get the results. If there are more voters supporting than opposing, the motion passes. Note the way an actual interchange for a simple motion might flow. This illustration starts after Cindy has been recognized or granted the floor. What is not shown here is that the discussion period is extremely flexible, ranging from none at all to essentially every member of the meeting. For this reason, some organizations employ an agreed upon time limit, say 5 minutes or 10 minutes, to limit discussion. This is usually considered a tradition or agreement and can be overruled by the majority of the body when necessary. Also note that everything that took place could just as easily be described, can just as easily describe a transaction where the vote of the body led to the motion being rejected. The previous question is a fairly common event. The prime purpose of moving the previous question is to end debate or discussion. It can be raised any time the mover can be recognized and gain the floor. Since this motion does quash discussion, it does require a 2/3 vote to succeed. This motion is not debatable. This motion is often shortened to, I move the question, but the more precise wording is, I move the previous question. As soon as the motion is made and seconded, debate or discussion stops. The chair at that moment has to put the main motion, remember the painted parking lot, on hold entirely. The previous question is not debatable or discussed, so the chair simply reminds the meeting that they are to vote. The vote is the question, are you ready to vote on the motion to paint the parking lot? You are not voting whether to paint the parking lot, just are you ready to vote? Taking the vote, keep in mind that this illustration shows the previous flow of events, but with the change that after Charlie has discussed, the chair recognized Gary, who moved the previous question. This is shown as happening after 4 people have brought discussion, but that is not magic. It can happen at any time. I have even seen it happen as the first speaker in discussion, though that is rare. In the event that happens, I have also seen the chair, when they are very sure that people are ready to vote, very sure, sometimes say, rather than vote twice without objection, we will close discussion and proceed to vote. This is not exactly proper, but it can be a time saver sometimes. A motion to amend can only happen when there is a main motion on the floor. When there is a main motion and the body is in the discussion phase, a mover can be recognized and gain the floor. There could have already been some prior discussion. It doesn't have to be the first one. Once they have the floor, the mover can state something like the example wording, I move to amend the motion by adding the words and paint the parking lines bright green. The amendment must be germane to the original motion. If it is not germane, the chair can rule it out of order. On the other hand, if it is germane, this now would-be motion requires a second. And once it has been seconded, everything about the main motion stops. Discussion or debate resumes, but it is limited to the amendment. One of the things that this points out is at this point it's very clear that having written copies of the original motion and the amendment is a true plus. This illustration shows where in the process of our main motion a motion to amend may occur. One of the things I want to point out is that in many ways a business meeting is a series of snapshots, and it's important to know when to take these snapshots. When Cindy moves the concept of painting the parking lot, nobody knows what will happen, so take a snapshot when it is seconded. As discussion proceeds, be ready to have to go back to that snapshot because you need it when someone calls the previous question or moves a motion to amend. It is so tempting to think, I can figure this out. This is pretty straightforward. but the best advice is to always get motions and amendments written out. But at this point of the illustration, let us recall that our initial snapshot of the main motion is now on hold, and we are only considering the amendment to use bright green for striping the parking lot. Now this illustration describes what happens when a motion to amend is heard. Whether it prevails or fails, the meeting returns to the main motion. If it has been amended, discussion continues on the amended motion, but if the amendment failed, discussion continues on the original main motion. In either case, discussion continues until the body is ready to vote. Take a simple majority vote and the prevailing side, well, prevails. You either do or do not get an orange parking lot and possibly bright green striping for parking. This is how a motion to amend works. This parliamentary action, a motion to amend by substitution, is both different and at the same time consistent with what we have already seen. Just like a motion to amend, this motion requires the mover to be recognized. Then she states her motion to amend by substitution. I move that we amend the main motion by substitution. The new motion reads, I move that the congregation establish a committee to plan colors and process to paint the parking lot, sidewalks, and fences. This substitute motion is close to the original main motion, and if it prevails, you now have a new main motion. If it fails, you continue the original main motion. A member of the body may raise a point of order. If a member has the opinion that there has been an infraction of the rules, they can raise a point of order. A point of order brings an immediate halt to the proceedings and is not debatable. The mover states their case, and the chair then considers the situation. These two examples are shown. Madam Chairwoman, I raise a point of order. The previous vote is one requiring 2/3 to pass, and we took a majority, which is not sufficient. Another is, Madam Chairwoman, I raise a point of order that the amendment about stripes is not germane to the main motion. Well, the chair may consult with someone, such as the parliamentarian, but ultimately the chair responds in one of three ways. One, if the chair agrees with the point raised, she can say the member's point is well taken and determine a proper next step. Two, if the chair disagrees with the point raised, she can say the member's point is not well taken and determine to continue as before, or three, the chair could say that they are not clear on the point and ask for a vote of the body on the point. A question of privilege is a general concern about the ability of a person or the body to conduct business. It's every member's right to be part of the process of the meeting, and if something detracts from that right for an individual or for the entire body, a member can raise a question of privilege. These two examples are shown. I raise a point of privilege. Copies of the next item of business have not reached us yet. Or, I raise a question of privilege. There are so many side conversations that we can't hear the chair. It is the chair's responsibility to resolve the issue. For instance, In the example where copies of business items have not yet been passed out, the chair can pause until the distribution is complete. In the example where noise is affecting some members, the chair can ask for order in the room. Raising an objection is a type of nuclear option for business that someone objects to so strenuously that they want to prevent it from even being heard. The time for objecting is to interrupt before a motion is moved or seconded. Once moved and seconded, objections are not appropriate. I have seen objections raised at World Conference over topics that were considered so polarizing that one side or the other felt that even mentioning the topic was an offense to the body. I have never seen an objection prevail. Thank you for visiting this brief information class called Parliamentary Actions. This class is intended to support the Community of Christ congregations in the Coastal Bend Mission Center. Again, my name is Jim Burdick. I'm on the Mission Center President team, and what I shared represented only my thoughts and opinion. It is not officially authorized by Community of Christ, nor is it sanctioned by Robert's Rules of Order. But thank you for having shared with us.